Justin Scott and Spiegel, Baltimore's Rock Radio 98 Rock. You've heard Britney Girl Dale on the airwaves here. You've seen him dancing on the side of Ritchie Highway down in Glen Burnie. He now has a short film, a documentary about him, all courtesy of this man here, Dan Bell. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning,
How you doing?
How are you, sir?
Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Thank
Appreciate
you for doing the Lord's work here. It was what? When did we start having these things sent to us? Was it last week?
Yeah, kind of broke on Twitter, I think, last week or something. It was, is that when it got posted? When did it get posted?
I think it was Wednesday of last week.
Yeah, and that's when it just started to blow up.
And
we got tweets
tweets
about it and this and that, and we all had to
Second
sit and
tweets.
watch it, yeah.
And 30 tweets later and 5 emails. Oh, my God, you have to see this. And Scott, particularly, of the program, my friend has had a long and storied history with Britney Girl Dale. I'd like to think that you might have been the Christopher Columbus to her new world as far as discovering and bringing her to the masses. I mean, really, no one else did it before you did. Shine a light on this American
Yeah,
icon.
I like to consider he's been around for years.
He's a
It's
pioneer.
nothing new. I mean, he used to dress as Madonna, then he was doing Britney Girl, and now he's kind of morphed into his own little thing where he's just his own kind of, I don't know, weird lingerie person. But I remember, it was years and years back. We were doing an event on Ritchie Highway, and I saw him, and I was like, doing what we do here. I was producing back then. I said, I got to go up to this guy. I got to figure out what this is, maybe get him on, little whack pack type thing, and the rest is history. I've made him famous. So,
Yeah. I mean,
when did you first find out about it?
Well, I first saw Dale when I was like 16. I worked for a landscaper
Right.
who lived off Crane Highway in Glen Burnie. And I was getting off work one day.
So that was years ago.
Yeah, you
were 16.
It was like 22 years ago.
Right.
So I went out to the highway, to Crane Highway, to catch the bus, and I see this guy walking up the street with a giant blonde mullet and a boombox blasting Madonna.
God.
And I was like, what is that? I just couldn't believe it, because at that time, you didn't do that in Glen Burnie.
Yeah.
That's just something you didn't do.
You just still don't do it.
No, yeah. and I was fascinated.
They're not above a hate crime round there.
No, they're not. So it just happened a few years ago. A friend of mine.
I don't understand this thing that's shaped differently than me. Go away. You're making me question what's happening in my pants. You see Britney Girl Dale. Had you ever seen any of the car accidents that she'd caused? Because that was the first hook.
That whole thing.
Was that she danced either...
This is the excuse everybody uses, that he causes car accidents. I don't see it. Because if someone causes a car accident, don't the police talk to that person, or it's in a police report, accident report or something?
Right.
I don't see that.
Not if Britney Girl Dale gets
it.
to him first.
I mean, how hard, it's like saying that the Liberty tax people, the ones that dance.
Well,
the
they're not dressed in lingerie with their ass out, Dan Bell. Come on.
From a distance,
it's a dude dressed in a wig with a sweet-looking ass and legs.
A great ass.
That's very distracting. And then as you're looking at the sweet ass of Britney Girl Dale, you rear-end the car in front of you.
But it's still a distraction.
Yes.
No matter what.
Yes.
I mean, you could
Very
either say,
distracting.
I'm texting, or I saw Britney Girl Dale.
So, I mean, you said 20 years ago you first ran into this. So he's been doing this for years. This is nothing new.
Well, 20 years ago, he wasn't wearing a wig or lingerie.
Yeah, but he's been dancing with the boombox and doing it has gotten more progressively
It actually
extreme.
took me a couple of weeks to put two and two together that it was actually him from 20 years ago. When I saw him on the highway later on, I'm like, this is the guy from 20 years ago when I was waiting for the bus. This is him.
So when you filmed the documentary, how long did you spend with him? For real? Like, what was the...
It was 2 days, and that was about all I could deal with.
Handle.
Really?
Yeah. And it had nothing to do really with Dale. It really had to do with just being terrified because...
Of what?
Well, if you spend time with Dale out on Ritchie Highway,
you begin to become associated with Dale.
But yeah, and people are it can get a little frightening Because
what do you mean by that?
When we were out there, somebody threw a bottle at us.
Whoa.
I mean, it's not.
Do people start to talk a little bit? Like, oh, you hear Dan saying out BGD.
No, not that. I think you just mean violence.
No, it was you hear the people calling us names, screaming out the window, and they didn't like me at all.
In the documentary, there's that young black kid that walks by, and he's using the F word, calling him a fag, and like right to his face, like real viciously. I was like, whoa. And I can only imagine that happens multiple times a day.
I couldn't believe it, because on one side of me was like, this is great for what I'm doing, but the other side was like, I want to strangle this kid.
Yeah.
But I had to kind of hold it together and say, I was about to hand my camera to Dale and just go beat the crap out of him.
Because as a documentary filmmaker, you just have to observe and report. You can't.
That's what I was doing.
Alter your surroundings, or you will have done the project no justice.
Exactly.
And one part that I find fascinating is maybe only 3 or 4 minutes into it, we know, Scott knows, I know, BGD as this larger-than-life dancing character, showing up at events, getting all nutty. Well, there's a moment in the car where you're interviewing BGD that's as lucid and as calm as you've ever heard him.
Yeah.
That. And it's still up in the air.
It's weird because...
How lucid did you get? How deep down to the core of why he is the way he is? Because we've tried. Scott's gotten
I've dealt
close.
with him for 10 years now.
I
and
understand.
Even on the air, like on air, off air, I've tried to figure out the inner workings of Britney Girl Dale, but it's for 98% of the time, it's a very superficial relationship. Just he's a wackadoo, and he's here and he's hanging out, and I can see there's a sweet, good person underneath there, but I never really got to the heart of it. I know he was molested as a child. I know all that, and that's why he's created this character to run from that. But were you able to see his house? Were you able to see where he lives? He claims to have sex with cops. Does he do drugs? Did you see? Is there anything?
I never saw him do drugs or drink, and I honestly believe that he doesn't do drugs.
How
or
about
drink.
sex with cops?
I know he
that whole thing. Now,
the sex with the cops.
According to Britney,
and the married men too.
And the married men, right? Married men and cops.
And
they all
Obama.
love me. I give them favors. And okay, Dale, right?
Dale isn't stupid, and Dale knows what
pushes the buttons.
What pushes the buttons. He's his best PR person.
There's a method to the madness.
There really is, because he's not stupid and he's not crazy. And people, I think that's a big misconception.
I agree with you about
crazy.
the stupid.
He
Crazy,
is crazy,
absolutely off the rails.
He is crazy.
Well, no, I don't think he's that crazy. And the reason is I've spent some time with Dale just talking to him when we were filming and off camera and driving around to different locations. I don't think he's crazy. I think he has. The thing is,
does he turn it on and off?
This is my opinion. I think that he has perhaps like an OCD thing, and I think that it really plays out on social media more than it does anywhere else. Mm-hmm. Because if you're on his social media, he's posting every...
That's why he calls me 15 times. I'm part of that social media whirlwind that he's in. He posts nonstop. He calls people nonstop. He tweets nonstop. He's calling me 10 times a day. I don't even check the voicemail anymore. But it's just nonsense.
It's when you give him one morsel, he'll take it and he'll squeeze it until he gets every drop out of it.
Which brings me to my next point, that you spend 2 days with BGD to do this documentary. Again, we're talking to Dan Bell, did the Britney Girl Dale documentary. It's available 90andonline.com, morning show page. You don't just film this, handshake, thank you for your time.
Oh, he's got your cell phone
number now. He has your soul.
Yeah.
Dan,
Is he
are
blowing
now
you
a
up
part
now?
of his life, and you're a part of his forever.
I know.
You invited a vampire in.
I know. There are worse people that I could have invited into my life.
It's a good way to look at it, I guess.
There are worse.
Keith Mills. I think we all agree Keith Mills.
It can be very overbearing and overwhelming, though. How many times does your cell phone ring a day?
Okay, so I think Dale forgot, because I shot this film 2 or 3 years ago, and I just put it together a couple weeks ago. And so nobody's seen the footage until last week.
How many hours of footage total, can I ask?
I think there's maybe 2 or 3 hours.
Oh, so there wasn't a ton of editing. I mean, it's down to 20 minutes, but usually you hear like, oh, I felt like 1,000 hours of footage.
No, because if I had shot 1,000 hours of footage, I would have put together a feature. Okay. But I think a feature honestly would have been overkill. So that's kind of, and when I was shooting it, I thought, well, do I want to take this into a feature land or do I want to keep it a short? I kind of just dropped the project.
So BGD has the cell phone.
Yes.
You guys been in contact.
Now, this was before. I think he's forgotten my phone number.
Thank God.
I have his phone number.
Go to church.
But I won't text him. I only talk to him through Facebook because I'm afraid.
You don't want him to get the number again.
He'll never stop.
So you never seen him have sex with a married man or a cop, or is that all made
God,
up?
No.
Is that all made up?
I wouldn't stick around for that.
I mean, is he gay? He's gay, right?
I think Dale identifies as bisexual.
Bi?
In the documentary, he identifies as gay.
What happened to his tooth? Why? 5 years ago, I knew him. He had all his teeth. Now he's missing a front tooth.
Well, I mean, in Brooklyn Park, the dental floss is like a tree limb. I mean, it's a lot of dental issues.
Yeah.
Did that fall out or was that knocked out?
Or was it meth? He does meth. He claims to just drink coffee, but I don't. I'm
telling you right now, Dale does not use drugs or drink.
Oh.
And
it's even weirder now if he does it, because it would make sense if teeth were flying out of his head willy-nilly
We got to go.
Of drug use.
But what was the most lucid and most connected you were with? I mean, you only spent a couple of days with him, but
honestly, just talking to him when he's off, when he's not, when we just sat down and talked, when he's not surrounded by people, he's surprisingly normal.
And he's very sweet. He's very sweet.
He's so sweet.
Like when he goes into the convenience store and all them ladies are in there and he's saying hi to them and they all love him.
They
know him. And it's he's so sweet. And the interaction between just human beings was like, God, that's so nice.
There's no maliciousness at all. There's no ill intent or anything like that.
No.
This is a person that has had something in their past go way off the rails and is dealing with it in whatever way they possibly can.
Absolutely.
The video is up at 98online.com, the JSS page, filmmaker Dan Bell. And by the way, just as far as the quality of a documentary,
it's good.
Incredibly well done.
Oh,
I mean, it is a very well done movie.
Much.
You said you made it a short. I would have liked it a little more.
It's that good that you want more.
I know.
Just some more like in depth. I wanted to, maybe see his house, his
that's
inner
kind
workings,
of like
him brewing the coffee. I know he gets up at like 3 a.m., brews black coffee, like mainlines black coffee,
pours it over his teeth,
like all that, just all the weirdness. Shopping at Frederick's.
I think I kind of did that deliberately.
Mm-hmm. You left that out.
I leave it open because he's still there, and if you want to find out more, you just go see him.
No.
All right, the video is up, 98online.com, courtesy of filmmaker Dan Bell, the Britney Girl Dale documentary.